All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Jolene's Happy Time Craftcast. I am Joleen, and thank you so much for being here. It feels like it's been a really long time since we've been together. And, we're the second and the fourth Wednesday of the month. But I just guess the dates fell weird, but it feels like it's been an incredibly long time. So I'm really glad to be back together again. I hope you're all having a wonderful summer. Things here in Minnesota have been amazing. It is the height of retreat season for us at Big Raven Farm, and we are going to be so busy. And we have been busy, but it's so nice to just take a few minutes and to sit down and talk about all things crafty and happy with my guests. And today, if you've got my emails about this, you'll have to forgive me for just how crazy excited I have been about today's guests because, friends, they have a yarn truck. Like, not a food truck, but a yarn truck. Can you even imagine like how amazing this must be? So forgive me for all the excitement in like the pre-show getting up and ready, but I'm really excited to introduce you to Katy and Dean Turbeville. And they are coming to us live from like a real event. So Katy, welcome to the Happy Time Craftcast.
Hey, hello. We are
Hello.
live. We're actually in Oma Knits here in Indianapolis and Indiana.
Oh my gosh.
So
So like set the scene. Like you're sitting in front of the truck.
yeah, so I'm actually sitting right next to the front passenger door, and right behind me is our front entrance to the truck. And so we have shoppers on the truck right now. They just got here, and we're really excited about that. We drove in this morning from West Virginia. We were camped outside of Huntington, and yeah, so here we are, all set up, ready to go.
Okay, so for those folks who might not get it, what
Mhm.
what is a yarn truck? What does that mean?
So, what we are is a mobile yarn shop that travels around. We bring specifically our truck focuses on hand dyed, indie dyed yarns. So, we work with small businesses and independent dyers from across the country, bringing all kinds of goodies to yarn shops, festivals, quilt stores, groups, whatever you want. So, yeah, that's what we do.
That is incredible. So are there other yarn trucks? Is this like a
Yes,
whole like industry like food trucks and some of us might not have heard about
there
it?
There are about 10 yarn trucks in the country right now in the US. We all kind of have our own vibe in how we do things, and we all operate independently. So we are a retail shop. So that means that I collect hand dyers and I bring them on board, or dyers, or yarn brands or whatever. And then, but there are definitely other trucks out here. There's one based in Indianapolis, just south of Indianapolis, and she dyes her own yarns. So we also have those as well. So.
So you are sitting at the door to the truck, and right now Dean is inside with shoppers.
Yes,
That's
exactly. So
so
it's just right here.
cool.
And, what's even better about it is that we stayed in the truck last night. So this is also our home. We sold our house last year to take this full time. So yeah.
So I like I'm not usually speechless. Like I have a lot to say about all kinds of things, but this is so cool. Like how
You.
okay, take me back. What did your family say when you came to them and said, "You know what we're going to do?" What did they say?
Um, so I've been in the yarn business for about 10 years. And I had brick and mortar yarn store. And when I quit my real job to open a yarn store, to begin with, they were like, this is a big step. And I was like, it is. And then I just didn't go back to a real job. I stuck with the yarn theme in my life.
Right.
And so when we said, hey, Dean is going to quit his job and totally go on the road with me full time, they were like, full time? Like no other job? Are you
Like
sure?
question mark?
And
What's
so
that
there was a
now?
lot of there was a lot of like financial planning and doing a lot of things
Sure.
getting ready for it. But yeah, the whole plan was that we were going to have an RV that was going to be something that we can live and work out of, and to really expand our circle. So we went from about a 10-hour radius from Northwest Arkansas to now we travel country with the whole country. So earlier, like last month, this time we were in Wyoming, and now we're in Indianapolis, and this morning we were in West Virginia. So yeah,
So as
a bit
this,
everywhere.
so you leave, okay, so you leave the brick and mortar and you now are gonna, take your retail store on the road in your yarn truck and you live here as well. And you've gone from the 10 hours to traveling the country. So
Mhm.
talk to me about like your happiness quotient. Like what is this like in the day to day? Like what's your happiness level?
Oh, hi. Um, we are super excited about a lot of things here. We love going and traveling. So to go way back into understanding all of that, let's take a backwards check to
Sure.
when my husband and I first got married in 2010. We took a 28-day road trip in a two-door car where we camped about half the time. And we did this whole epic Western journey around the whole American West, national parks, the whole nine yards, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so we really fell in love with traveling there, and we really enjoyed that part. And so, like, we had this goal while my husband was entering med school that we were going to someday, have a little trailer, travel around, do all this fun stuff. And yarn wasn't really in the picture yet, but that was the goal, was that we were going to have a little teardrop and drive around and do that. And then, so right after he started med school, I had to figure out something to do that was let him study and me not to bother him. So I picked up knitting,
Mm,
and and quickly figured out that I really like yarn and not necessarily like, I enjoy the making, but I really,
right.
really, really, really love yarn. So,
Right.
so we
It's
went from
like the
there to
textile of it,
doing,
right? Like it's the
yeah,
beauty, the fiber. In fact, my guest last on the last episode, I believe have collaborated with you and talked about, having their product in the adventure truck as well. So, okay, so continue. So you're knitting
yeah.
and you're, Dean's in med school, and then what happened?
So he graduated med school, and we moved to Indiana. And while he was doing in med school, I taught elementary special ed, which was super fun. And I'm glad I'm no longer doing that. But we moved to Indiana, and I opened a brick
Mhm.
and mortar yarn store while he was in residency. And so that was a lot of fun. We had a great time learning all about the yarn business. And then we moved back home to Arkansas because that's where his loans took him. So we lived in Arkansas for about 6 years, and while he was practicing medicine in Arkansas, I taught knitting classes almost exclusively with yarn stores. And then pandemic hit, which was super fun. And I am an extrovert, like the extroverted of extroverts, and so I love people. The pandemic just about killed me. So because I
Right.
need people, right? And so we looked at it and we're like, hey, we've always dreamed about going and living on the road and having, this full time
Mhm.
thing. What is the avenue that gets us to that point?
Right,
And
right.
so we realized that the avenue was that we could either go ahead and get a van and like a van RV and travel the week on, week off that my husband was working,
Right.
where he would work a week and then we would travel for a week, or we could invest in a business that would continue our travels in other ways. And so we invested in the business, and I was like, I really need to get back in yarn, so yarn truck it is. That's what we're gonna do. And so we drove around for through 2.5 years in a converted airport shuttle bus. And her name is Ellie, and Ellie now is another yarn truck. So that's a whole nother story. But and then last year about this time, we purchased an RV and had it gutted and turned into a yarn store that we can live
Um,
in and drive around the country. So this is Evie.
I
So now you're
just
seeing Evie. She's purple.
I love so Evie like Evie shows up with a splash apparently like with those bright colors and all of your branding and I
Yes,
just
she's
I'm
covered with
so
yarn.
I'm so happy. You're kidding me. Oh, on the
She's covered in
inside.
yarn. I don't know if you can see it there. Yeah. So she's got actually got pictures of hand dyed yarn on her. So those are
Oh,
yarns that we
that's
carry on the truck.
awesome.
So these
That's
are featured dyers, and yeah, I can tell you about them too.
right. Well, what I love so much, Katie, is that it's wildly creative. And, it's just a scotch outside the box, like a giant step outside the box. And I love that you have combined. I mean, I think, you and I have this in common. Our lifestyle and our commitment to craft are like one and the same. I live and work in my crafty business, just like you do. So, what has been like the best part of this lifestyle?
So making the transition from
Mm,
my husband working every other week and traveling with me every other week. So I would
yeah.
drive out to go to festivals, and I would come back home, and then I would pick up my husband, and off we would go again, right?
Yeah.
So in the past 6 months, we've been able to, since he quit his regular doctoring job, he's been able to come and with me full time, and so we travel everywhere. We love being together and doing this
Yeah.
together, and so I'm able to bring this like super exciting, enthusiasm for yarn together with the adventure that I'm having with my husband, and that we are building this business and expanding the community, the fiber community, all over everywhere we go, really. So
That's
yeah.
so exciting. So, any drawbacks? Any like not your favorite part?
My cats now live with my in-laws, which makes me a little
Ah, your
sad.
pet. Okay,
With
that
my babies. Ralph and Sam love living there, though they are spoiled completely rotten.
of course.
Space is really interesting. So figuring out one inventory and making sure that we have things where we need them to have where we need to have them, but
Mhm.
also just like I'm limited on what we can, the
Sure.
businesses that we can bring in. So we're very, very passionate about building the community, building the yarn and fiber community.
Mhm.
And that specifically goes hand in hand with the independent dyers that we work with. So we work with all these small businesses, and but unfortunately, there's only so much room. So I can only bring
Sure.
in so many people and so many things, and so we can only visit so many places, um,
Right.
just because driving it
Mhm.
takes time.
Right.
Um,
And
so
storage and
yeah,
backstock and
yeah,
like where all those things would be.
exactly.
Yeah. That makes sense.
That's our probably our biggest challenge with it. I love being on the road. I We have a family of we have a friends and family network that literally goes coast to coast, and so we're able to go and visit them and be a part of their families and a part of their
Mhm.
adventures as well. And then with the vendors, so other people we meet at shows, and like tonight we're staying in Indianapolis, but we're going to be staying with a friend of ours who is another vendor. So we're able to make those connections throughout, and then we'll be with them this weekend while they're vending at Michigan Fiber Festival. And so those are the important things to me. And so
Right.
even like people are always like, "Oh, you don't have a home, you don't have a home base." I'm like, I have a lot of home bases. I have so many places to call mine and to be a part of that community.
That's awesome. So where can our listeners find you?
So you can find us all the time at yarnadventuretruck.com.
Okay.
And
And we'll be sure to
that
link
is
that
our
in the show
website.
notes and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yarnadventuretruck.com has a full list of all of the events that we
Okay.
attend and that we host. And so that includes things like Oma Knits and Textiles here in Indianapolis, or yesterday at Canacity Yarn Company in Canacity, West Virginia, or this past weekend at Southern Shepherd's Fiber Market in Charlotte, North Carolina. So those are all listed on our website. We also have a very active social media presence, and you can find us at Yarn Adventure Truck on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.
That's awesome. So where are you headed to now? So you're in Indianapolis right now. And then what
Yeah.
happens?
So this weekend we'll be at Michigan Fiber Festival in Allegan, Michigan. We'll be there for
Okay.
3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And the market hours are listed several places. So
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
I don't remember all of them. I'm sorry. And then next week we'll actually be back in West Virginia at the Yarn Basket in Philippi, West Virginia. And then we'll be at Pittsburgh Creative Fiber Arts Market in Pittsburgh. Um, and then the week after that,
You have
we will
customers
be
behind you. That's
in
exciting.
yeah. uh, the week after that we'll actually be in Minnesota, so you can come and see us there. Will be
Where are you going
amazing.
to be in Minnesota?
We're popping up in Maple Grove at Amazing Threads all day on Wednesday, the 28th. And then
Oh
we'll
my
be
gosh.
at Prior Lake. There's a stitch group there called Twisted Stitchers. We'll be at the library at Prior Lake, just south of Minneapolis, on Saturday for most of the day. And then on Sunday, the September 1st, we're going to be in Hastings, Minnesota for the Sweater Weather Mini Fest pop up that Muse 2320 is putting on. So come and see us with some of our favorite dyers, including Muse 2320, Lavender Loon Yarn, Get Ben's Farms, and
My
then
goodness.
I think Fiber MacGyver is coming. I'm not positive.
I
So, yeah.
So this is like I'm learning so much today because I had no idea that there were so many events and opportunities in the fiber space. And I would imagine for those of
Oh,
us,
yeah.
kind of listening, this is really eye-opening. I had no idea. So when you say community, you are not kidding. Like
Yeah.
it's a robust and active community.
Oh, for sure. And like we get to hang out when we go to all these yarn stores and to these
Hmm.
events. We really get to meet a lot of people, but we also get to sit down with them. I get to teach classes. I get to, which I teach a wide variety of knitting
Hmm.
and fiber arts classes. We also get to sit down and do like knit nights or stitch nights or whatever's going on. Sometimes just talking about the yarn truck and what we do and like different makers that we feature. So yeah, we get to really be a part of the community in other ways as well, like make-alongs. So we just finished up a make-along we hosted. It was we called it Adventure for the Gold,
Okay.
and so everyone who participated gets a little sticker that we're going to send out to them. And really, it was just working on a project during the Olympics and having a shared experience of watching the Olympics and working on something that was a challenge to you. So
Right.
that's something that we do. All of our products are going to be things that are made by small indie artists for the
Yep.
most part, and that mean that they may design the artwork, or they may sew with the artwork, or they may make all the colorways, or they have bespoke bases
Hmm.
of different types of yarn, that kind of thing. So we have all kinds of wonderful people that we work with, and that's our community as well. So we try to promote all of those people.
Right. And you mentioned to me earlier that you stream live. Can you tell us a
Uh-huh.
little bit about that?
Yeah. So every Wednesday night at 7 Central, we go live on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, and it's called Wednesday Night Yarn Adventures. And
Okay.
it's Dean and I just sit down. So this evening, actually, we will sit down at our friend's house and we will chat about where we've been this week and what's new on the
Okay.
truck. And this week, there's a lot of new stuff on the truck. So definitely tune into that if you'd like to. There's a lot of new. We picked up a bunch of stuff this weekend. So I'm not even sure what all I can tell you about, but
Right,
yeah.
right.
We sit down and we chat and we have a really good time doing that. We invite you guys to join us and
Mhm.
everyone to join in the chat. We see all the comments. We watch Instagram as well as Facebook and YouTube at the same time, and we try to make sure we engage everyone in that as well. And so our next make along that's coming up that we'll start talking about tonight is actually sweater weather, and that will
Sure.
kick off in conjunction with the sweater weather
In
event
Minnesota.
at Muse 2320. So yeah.
Wow. So much, like so much going on. So in all of that then, Katie, do you have a favorite project or medium? I mean, I know that, there's that old saying, old saying about, crafting and then craft supplies and like that they're two
Uh-huh.
different hobbies. Sometimes we just like collecting the things and then other times we like making things with the things. So what is your favorite project or medium or technique?
Okay. Well, I'm a knitter. That is what I
Yep.
am first and foremost. I'm a knitter. And that is where I find my joy. And I love the just the rhythm is that's what I need. So I
Yes,
have a few projects that I'm working on at the moment, and I brought those.
of
I grabbed
course.
my Dean grabbed my bag for me because he was like, "You got to have something to work on." I was like, "I know, I need something." So you probably saw
Right?
me stitching a while ago. I'm working on a Musselburgh hat. So it's a hat that folds on itself basically. So I'm like 3/4 of the way done, but it looks like a giant, bag at the moment. But this is
Right,
what
right.
that is. And the yarn is actually one of our dyers here on the track. This is Get Knit based in Colorado. Michelle dyed this, and this colorway is called Secular. And so Dean actually started the hat, and then he got tired of knitting. He was like, "This is really not for me," and so I'm gonna finish it eventually.
I love past the
And
project.
then,
I think that's so cool.
so he does know how to knit. I promise. My husband does actually know how to knit.
Of
He
course.
just it's not his jam, so we call that good. And then I talked about the Adventure for the Gold project that we were doing, and so I challenged myself to knit a DK weight sweater in 17 days. I did not
Okay.
make it, but I did get really close. So you can see this sweater that I have knit. And I'm on the
Wow.
sleeves. So here's the body of the sweater, and it has noops all the way down it, and then it has collarwork sleeves, and also with noops.
So if you are
And
listening and not watching, let me describe the scene. My mouth
sorry.
is hanging open, and I'm like, making that kind of expression, like an oh wow expression. And this sweater is beautiful. It is like a cowl neck pearl pullover, and then it's got little adornments and risen little baubles on the sleeves, and really great color. And it looks perfect, like a perfect kickoff to someone saying it's sweater weather because it's just
Yeah,
luxurious and comfy, and it looks like enveloping, like whoop, like it's gonna like just snuggle you right in.
it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's a balloon armed sweater, so
Okay.
like the sleeves are
Yeah,
have
nice
a balloon
sleeves.
shape to them, and then they'll come in
Mhm.
tied at the wrist. It's the pattern is called Budding Vines. It's by Trudy Fedorko of U2 Yarn out of Waxahachie, Texas. So,
That's awesome. So I will be sure to like get from Katie all of these resources and links, and we'll make sure that folks are able to find them in the show notes, which is so cool. So
oh,
when you're teaching, then like you used to teach the knitting classes. So do you have like a little project that our
yeah.
listeners might try?
So I do still teach knitting classes. I also teach
Okay,
mending, and I teach like crafty kind of things, just different things.
sure.
I teach those a lot at festivals or at events like at yarn shops, those
Hmm.
kind of things. So what we're going to talk about today is actually doing a little bit of embroidery to add some extra to your favorite t-shirt or sweatshirt. So this is a sweatshirt. I'm showing a gray sweatshirt that I purchased a couple of years ago from another fiber maker. Crochet hooks.
Okay.
And she makes she just had this on her website, and I got it and I love it. It says, "Will you be my yarn friend?" And when I got it, I it was like really black lettering where it says yarn friend in cursive. And
Oh,
then
so
as
the
I wore it and washed
idea.
it, it started to fade.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
I was like, well, I want people to see that because that's like the best part, right? Because I want you to
What
be
a
my
great
yarn friend,
idea.
obviously.
So you are
Um,
embroidering over the existing text, right?
Yeah, so I embroidered over the existing text, and I just used a like a backstitch.
Yeah,
So just really basic, basically tracing the letters. You could also use a chain stitch, which would be
sure.
really nice, especially for the curves. And it would fill it in very nicely. But yeah, I just traced basically over the letters with some yarn that I had laying around. So you know that bag of scrap yarn that you have, like when
Yes.
you cut your ties or like do whatever. So I have my little Ziploc
Mhm.
baggie of yarn, or little bits of leftovers that are like less than like 4 or 5 yards. This is a really
Right.
great project for that. So what I recommend having is using a friction pin, and a friction pin that's the brand from Pilot, apparently.
Oh, okay.
But it's a pin, ballpoint pin, and quilters use them a lot because they will mark
Mhm.
on fabric. But then if you run an iron over them, it disappears. It's
Okay.
disappearing. So it's all
Nice.
heat reactive. And so if you draw your design out, if you don't
Yep.
have a guideline like words or something, you wanted to do like flowers or
Right, like a
whatever you
little
wanted,
line
then
or
you
a
would
little
be able
heart.
to,
Yeah. Additional
yeah, you can
embellishment.
draw it on. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you don't like it, you just run an iron over it if it goes.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about that. So friction pins, really great tool for that. And then I like using Sashiko style needles for
Okay.
for doing the embroidery, especially on like sweatshirt material,
Sure.
because they're sharp, but they have a bigger eye than your typical
Mm-hmm.
sewing needle.
For
So the
yarn.
Sashiko style needles will be easier to thread with yarn, and they're going to be a lot easier to pull through. And I have also used a little bit of beeswax
Oh,
on my
sure.
yarn to help it slide through the fabric. So
Right.
you can use those as options. And then, so this was the kind of the craft I was thinking of, and I was like,
Yeah.
this is perfect because it's a nice little option for
Oh,
you guys
it's
to
so
play with,
great.
and yeah. But there's really great options for other options for yarn too. So I don't know if you've heard of Plied Yarn Co. out of Baltimore. It's
Okay.
Ann Weaver is the mastermind behind that, and she basically takes singles of 100% wool, and she dyes each ply, so single plies of the yarn, in her studio with her sister Beth, and
Okay.
then sends them to Harrisville Designs and has those colorways plied together into 2-ply 100% non-superwash yarn, wool
Oh
yarn.
my
And
goodness.
they're gorgeous colorways, but she also does a whole line of like full skeins, but she also has bobbins. And so the bobbins are about 40 yards each, and there's a bobbin here. And they're all her
Katie,
colorways,
I
but
just
they're like
want them.
really
You
great.
know?
Yeah,
Like I
yeah,
just
just
want them.
collecting them.
Right. I know. I feel like I'm
So
jumping into that other side of crafty life that I just mentioned that like I just want the things because they're so incredible to look at.
So the little bobbins are, but they're the perfect size and weight, really, because they're
Yeah.
fingering weight, so they're really light. And if you
Yeah.
wanted to pull the plies apart, you could and use individual colors. But they're great for projects like this, where you're going, I
Mhm.
just need a little bit of color. I just need a
Yep.
little bit of this. I just need a little bit of that. Because 40 yards is, it's not a lot, but it's enough to do something fun with.
Oh,
And she
sure.
has
For
other
something like
ideas
that.
for projects like banners, like little like oh, you know what I'm talking about, where you have like the stars. She has a couple of
Pennant.
patterns
Pennant banners.
in
Yeah.
her yeah, and super cute little ideas like that. So yeah, you can definitely take those motifs and like crochet something up or knit something and add it as a patch on your knits as well. So that's a
Right.
lot of fun to add a little embellishment um, with yarn, because we all have these beautiful yarn stashes, which
Yeah.
I'm all about. I'm all about the collecting, but
Right.
we all have these beautiful yarn stashes, and then
Yeah.
they just sit there. Well, how can we get them out and on things that we love? Make a pocket, make something that adds to your piece
I think
without
mine
being like overwhelming.
I think my yarn stash is actually it's right here in a big
Oh my gosh.
bowl. And so,
That's my
oh yeah,
scrap stash. I don't know what you're talking about.
right? Oh, it's so but I was like, I have a yarn stash. Where is it? And I was like, oh yeah, it's behind me. Well, that's a much more practical application. And I love it. Katie, I never would have thought of embroidering with yarn on a garment. And I would imagine it needs to be the weight of a sweater or a sweatshirt to, hold up. Would it work on a t-shirt? I don't know.
So the sweatshirt, I use DK weight yarn, so I use the size 3.
Okay.
And that's it. It is a hand dye. I believe it's from Urban Girl Yarns. I don't remember the name of the colorway, but so it was just scraps that I had. But the heavier the garment, the
Yeah.
more prominent you want your yarn to be. So you want to make that appropriate. So if you
Right.
wanted to do a t-shirt, I think you could totally do
Hmm.
something like a fingering weight, or even like a lace cobweb of some sort.
Hmm.
Another great maker is Trailhead out of Canada, and they hand dye tinsel thread. And so
Yeah.
it's not divisible, but it's still hand dyed things. And so it's
Right.
totally doable with these kind of embroidery ideas, and you're getting the hand dyed and the awesome, like, supporting our small indie makers. And
Yeah.
Samantha and her mom Carol are amazing people, and so just being able to support those crafts and
Right.
different um, materials are just really fun. So yeah.
Well, it is very clear from our conversation that you are a connector and that you are, a champion for the industry and the community. I mean, just the number of folks who you've rattled off and shared here, it's inspiring, and it's also like I want to be a part of it because it sounds amazing to be I mean, who doesn't want to hang out with crafty folks? Like I love this for you. This just seems like,
Yeah.
the blending of lifestyle, business, and craft. Um, it just brings me back to that question about happiness quotient. You seem pretty happy.
Yes. No, this is my dream job. And I
Yeah,
know
good for
that's coming up
you.
later. So I'm gonna hold off on like waiting on that, but because I know later on we have the one word segment. And
Oh
so
yeah, it's
you
coming
listened
up.
to all the words as I was waiting for that because that was definitely something we were talking about. So my husband and I
Yeah,
like were talking in the car this morning or in the truck. So the truck
yeah,
is our home, our vehicle, and our business. And so we
sure.
spend a lot of time in the truck. So
Yes. Yeah.
if we're chatting, we're probably in the truck.
Right. Well, and we have that in common too. I am in partnership in life and business with my husband as well. And so, we spend a lot of time together. And I'm lucky that he's like my favorite person. And I
Yeah.
think I'm his favorite person. So that makes for like, it's a really incredible lifestyle when you are in alignment with a person who, wants the same things. Because I wouldn't want Darren to feel like a prisoner in this whole madness.
We like to joke that Dean is the business side, so he does like all of our spreadsheets and he
Oh,
does
sure.
all of our like keeping track of all of our money. And I'm the creative one. I'm like the one. So I
Right?
was thinking,
Oh my
and then
gosh.
proceeds to rattle off some ridiculous idea that's like, and
Yeah.
he's like, okay, well, how can we make this work?
Same in our life and business. In fact, I don't know if you caught the episode where Darren was my guest, and it's
I
almost like a
didn't,
little,
but I'll have to go
well,
look it up now.
oh yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. But like it's a little party trick at this point where um
Hmm.
like if I say Aaron in front of people, if I say, "Oh, honey, I have an idea." It's so fun to watch his body language and to watch him just get kind of tense. And sometimes he puts his fingers in his ears and he's like, "No," and he has this very dramatic reaction. But it's almost like become performance art at this point because I know what he's going to do. And that's just like what he does in public. But in real life, he's much like Dean and he's like, okay, let's figure out how we can make this work.
Yeah. He's also the one who keeps me a little grounded, so I don't like
Right.
just go, I'm gonna buy all
Right.
the things.
Right. Oh, for
Because
sure. I
it's
totally
the
get
one
that.
he's the one who goes, where are we actually gonna put that in the truck? And I'm like,
Sure.
okay, that's true. We're out of my
Good
physical wall
point,
space at
right?
this point.
Good point. Good, excellent point. Well, I'd like to take a minute now to just take a tiny little pause and tell you all what's going on here at Big Raven Farm and also talk a little bit about what's on my work table. Let's start with what's on my work table. So, I recently finished a pretty large project where I was cutting recycled book board. I got a new drill press. And I also got a series of hole bits so that I can cut circles. Now, this has made a ginormous mess because book board is way dustier than wood. And so there are fibers flying everywhere. It is so messy. I have to wear a respirator. I am dirty and smelly when I'm done. But the vision was there to create something with all of these circles. So I completed a pretty large piece of artwork. I think it's 8 inches by, I want to say 37. So 8 by 37. And it's hanging in our kitchen. And I wanted the circles to be dimensional. So, like, some are coming out further from the substrate, others are back in, and then they're layered on top of one another. So, I used coils of book paper to create this, they're called risers basically. So I'm getting some of the bookboard circles up and over other circles. So I've got, the one that I did as a test for my craft club. And my craft club is making this here in August. I hope they're excited about it. And then I made the one that's, 8 by 37 or whatever it is. But now, in classic Joleen style, I want to make a big one. Like, I don't know, 47 by 47. So, like, huge. And I have just the place for it to hang here at our bed and breakfast. So, what I'm working on is making more circles. and it is dirty and just messy. And I don't mind it so much, but down in my workshop, we don't have air conditioning. And it's kind of in this interior room in my workshop where, on the far end, there's a garage door, but it doesn't get to this like interior space. So I have like a fan blowing on me. I have like the whole thing, but it is going to take me a while to get all the pieces cut because you can't cut more than one at a time. And anyway, so that's what's on my work table. But because I also need like to scratch that creative itch so that I'm not just waiting for my pieces to be made, I've really gotten back into collage. I love collage. I love it so much. I think that it is just a super fun in between, right? So like when I can't be, making the big thing until I got all the little things made, I like a little taste, right? Like Katie, like a little project. Like I like just a little thing to do in between my big things. So what I've been doing is, so this is one of my book board journals. So this is an old book and the cover has been done with old book pieces that I've cut into tiles. And then I have all of my leftover jelly plate prints. So if you are a jelly print maker, you know that you are working with acrylic and you're putting down acrylic and you're rolling it out with a brayer and you have an idea of where you're going to go. But in between, you need to clean your brayer. So because
Right.
I have a problem and I can't throw away anything, I keep all those papers. So those papers, they're just cast-offs or they're ghost prints. So they've got like different layers of texture, different, dimensions, but nothing is really intentional. This was all basically just garbage. But in
Hmm.
a project like this, they end up giving me a lot of depth, a lot of texture, and they look incredible. So I've kept all of my scrap papers. I cut them down into 4x6, which was really 8x12, and then sewed them together with a little pamphlet stitch. And then now I'm building out these little collage journals. Well, here's the part that gets really interesting. So the images that I'm using are from my friends at Collage Soup. And Katy, they make collage books where instead of going through and looking through like all of your
Yeah,
ephemera or your collections, it's a book. And you flip through and you find, look at this image,
that's super fun.
right? It was
Love
in the
it.
book.
I went through a whole
And
phase in college when I did that.
right, I know, and I love it. I love it so much. But what I also love is I'm not really like a live, love, laugh girl. I am more
Mhm.
like I find the most incredible phrases and expressions because I touch so much paper. So the sentences that I see, incredible. So this one says, holes in macaroni and how they're made always baffled me too. That has to be, like, I have to keep that. I have to keep that like forever and ever because that's an awesome sentence. So I matched it up together
Right.
with this image from Collage Soup. So last night on my live stream, this is what I have been working on because
Mhm.
in between the big projects, it just gives me a little taste. This lady says, turn those great ideas of yours into a beautiful reality. It was an ad for a dishwasher. Yep. So I kept
Of
that.
course.
This guy right here, he says, want to make some easy money. He's like a wizard in a long purple cloak, also from Collage Soup.
Uh-huh.
Um, but it is on top of some of my mother-in-law's canceled checks. So you might not be able to see it, but in the background, there are all of these checks that I repurposed and used for a background. But anyway, I've just been having
Love
so
that.
much fun with the collage suit papers, with my cast off jelly print papers. And I guess my message to our listeners is this. Sometimes people ask me how do you come up with these things and how are you so creative? I really believe that creativity is a practice. And the more
Yeah.
you play and discover and explore, the more you receive. And I think for me, that is how my creativity it doesn't really sit inside a predetermined boundary. And I love it. And I love it. But I think that if I didn't do it, and if I didn't do it intentionally, I too might get stuck. I don't know. What are your thoughts on
Mhm.
creativity, Katie?
Creativity is definitely an act that we have to be intentional about.
Yeah,
And I think it is a muscle that we have to exercise. So it gets better as you do more with it.
right. It's like a
So,
stretch.
and while I love having a pattern, a
Yeah,
recipe, which is all I always say, a pattern is just a recipe, aka it's a suggestion. So
sure.
when we have something that we love and we've seen and we're like, oh, but what if? And asking ourselves that what if question is really where our
Yeah.
creativity comes in play. And so sometimes we need to challenge ourselves and go, but what if I did this?
Hmm.
What if I used these colors together? What if I went the untraditional route and tried
Right.
something different? So yeah,
Right.
synthesize.
I
Yeah.
love that. I'm going to use that every day because, like, what if I didn't throw away these papers where I'm cleaning my brayer, and then I cut them down to size and I use them as a background? Like, poof, that's just how it happens. It's practice, it's muscle memory. So that's what I've been working on, and I hope you all give it a try too. And then, of course, let me know. Let me know if you do. I always love to hear
Yes.
that. All right. So, guess what, Katie? We are to that portion of the
Okay.
Happy Time
Yeah, I
Craftcast.
prepared.
Okay. I love that. I love that you're prepared. So, what, and I ask this of every guest, right? So, what is your favorite word?
I mean, it's my favorite word is actually adventure.
Well, okay. That tracks.
Um, it has so many possibilities
Yes.
because an adventure, and we used to have a set of bags that was like I made them and they defined adventure. And
Yeah.
really it just means trying something new, not
Mm-hmm.
knowing the end result. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the journey that you're taking.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is our grand journey, right? This is our grand
Right.
adventure, going out, not necessarily knowing what's going to be out there for us, but we're going to do it anyway. So,
And I love that that's the name of, like, it is Adventure Truck, right?
yarn adventure. Yep.
Yarn Adventure Truck. Okay. So I love that. I love that. Like, let's just bring it all into like every aspect of our life. That's amazing. So then what is your least favorite word?
I couldn't come up with one. I tried really
Mm.
hard, and I was like, I don't know. I'm like, I really don't know.
Well, I
We
think it
really
can be
tried to come
very
up with that.
contextual, right? Like, I think sometimes when I hear it, I know it, and I'm like, "Ooh, I don't like that very much." But usually it's like when, like, have you ever taken those assessments to like
Yes.
personality assessments, or how would you define or describe this person? And one of the words that comes up on my list is dramatic. As like people like me are defined as being dramatic. And I'm like offended by that. I'm like, I don't like that in this context. Like, not at all. Like, where in the world do they come up with such
I
ideas?
prefer opinionated. Like it's not just dramatic. I prefer opinionated if that's going to be
Right.
the because I do have
Exactly.
opinions and I'm not afraid to share them and I'm going to be very vocal about them when I do it. So
Nice.
that's where the drama comes in. I guess drama
Right.
is more like sometimes we feel that's acting and it's not real. But
Right.
really, it's having something to say and expressing
Hmm.
it. So
Right, right. Fair enough. Fair enough. So then this is probably the most important question. What is the best kind of sandwich?
this was not on the list, but I am prepared. Okay.
It's new. It's new. We
Uh,
switched from
okay.
we switched from curse words to sandwiches.
I had one for curse words. Okay. Ready. I was so ready. I actually have that one too. Okay. My favorite sandwich is a grilled peanut butter and jelly.
Mine too. Oh my gosh, I
So
love them so much.
yeah,
And my husband thinks
in
I'm
the
disgusting.
pandemic, yeah, in the pandemic, Dean was one night, he was like, so what do you want? Like, you want something to eat? And I was like, yeah, I want something to eat. He's like, well, we have stuff for peanut butter and jelly. You want a peanut butter and jelly? I was like, no, it's cold.
No.
I don't like cold food. I don't like cold, savory food. And that's just how I am. And
Right.
so, like, salad, I think is totally gross. There's something wrong with me. I'm eating salad. But because it's cold. I don't like cold things.
Okay.
So
Okay.
he was like, well, I can like, I was like, but I don't really want grilled cheese. And we didn't have the cheese or something like that. Like, you know,
Right. Right.
and so he was like, well, what if I like made the peanut butter and jelly warm? And I was like, now you're onto something. And so now it's the only way I eat my peanut butter and jelly sandwiches is if they're grilled.
Okay.
And
So
that's a real challenge on the yarn truck.
I bet. But I have two things about grilled peanut butter and jelly that
Mhm.
will change your life. Number one, thinly sliced Granny Smith apple inside
Yes.
to give you a little bit of crunch and a little bit of tart.
Mhm.
Highly recommend. Idea number two, again, I am judged by my contemporaries. It's disgusting, but I love it. Potato chips. Potato chips inside and no, Katie, no, you
Nope.
have to believe me.
Nope.
It's so good. It's like the salty, crunchy on the inside. Love it.
Nope.
We'll have to agree to
They get
disagree.
soggy.
Yeah,
They get
no,
soggy. When you add the peanut butter, they get soggy.
they don't. They
No,
don't.
I do prefer cherry preserves or blackberry,
Oh,
which I don't do. I don't do grape jelly. So
no. We currently have a jar of fig open currently. And the fig is so savory with the peanut butter, so
mhm.
highly recommend. But we do have this in common. That
Okay,
is one of my
I will
favorite
try the
things.
fig, and I
Okay,
will try,
perfect.
and I have tried the Granny Smith apple. The
Yes.
potato chips go on the side,
All
and
right.
preferably
There's where we part ways, which is totally fine. Totally fine. Okay.
okay.
So here we go. What does being an artist mean to you?
Um, so most of the time, I don't really consider myself an artist because a lot of times I do follow directions. I say that if knitting is mostly about being able to follow directions. So
Sure.
you have a recipe in front of you, you follow the directions. It's kind of like being a baker, you
Mhm.
know, like you have a very specific recipe, and then you
Yes.
can add and subtract from that. But
Right.
you're pretty well stuck in this. You weigh out 42 grams, and then you,
Yeah.
you know. I am not the baker, obviously. I don't really know, but Dean makes really great cinnamon rolls. So being an artist, I mean, that's
So maybe for you, we should switch it to creative. Like, what does it mean being a creative to you? Because clearly you are.
so a lot of being creative is being surrounded by things that inspire us.
Hmm.
And
I think we lost Katie for just a smidge. We'll see if she's able to shake shake that little bug loose. Maybe I'm stuck too. Isn't the world of technology great? I think we might have lost her. So, okay, well, she was talking about what it means to be creative, and I guess I can jump in and talk a little bit about it for myself. I am fulfilled every single day with just the notion of living in a space where I can think of possibilities, in our business and then also in my artistic and crafty life. Um, such a liberating feeling to know that I'm the only one who sets those boundaries. So I love that. Our next question was, what sound or noise do you love? Oop, maybe we got her back. There she is.
sorry, I just changed
That's
internet
okay.
connections.
That's okay. I stretched. So what sound or noise do you love?
I love the sound
I
of
think
hear all the little.
yes. Yes, I know that sound. Yeah. Do you prefer metal or wood? I think she's gonna say that she prefers what do you think, friends? I bet she's wood because like those natural elements. I'm gonna go ahead and guess that. Did you say wood? We lost you again.
It made the little circle of death. Okay,
Yeah.
so the noise that I hate though, which is I know your next question, is the repetitive noise like when you lay at night and the ceiling fan is clicking.
Yes.
Metronome drives me insane.
Ah, again, we
Same
part
sound,
ways there. I love that. I
same
have to have a
sound.
fan going. I love it. I love it so much.
No. Like specifically the clicking, like when
Oh, of the
the
metro.
fan is
Okay.
loose. Yeah, I can't handle that.
That's fair. That is absolutely fair. So, what profession other than the one you're in right now would you like to attempt?
So we talked about this too, and I am doing my dream job. This is exactly what I want to do in life. Mostly the collaboration piece, and
Yeah.
what we were talking about is I have done more with like consulting and doing things
Hmm.
where I help other businesses, especially small fiber arts businesses, get started or
Yeah.
help guide them in certain ways. And so doing the consulting side of it is definitely something I'd like to do more of.
Right.
But I really love what I do. This is what fulfills all of my dreams.
I think that I think well, first of all, I think it's wonderful. And I also think that unfortunately for so many folks, it's rare. It's rare to have that of what you're doing and what you love. Like usually they don't, touch. So
Mhm.
I think it's just an incredible story to share with folks that, you visioned it, you envisioned it, you built it, you're living it. And it sounds to me too like you and Dean both are willing to ride out the bumps and the pivots. Like there are things that you have
Yeah.
to change or ways you need to grow and expand. That's with any business, right? Or any business that survives. So is there a profession that you would not like to do?
I do not want to go back to teaching elementary school.
Right. No,
I did
and
that.
God bless them, right? God, I
Um,
don't know how they do it.
that one is one. And then my husband was like, Dean goes, well, obviously it's accounting or basically anything that's a 9 to 5 that has me sitting at a desk every
Right.
day. Because there's
Right.
just like we travel, and the traveling piece is really, really important. I want different
Yeah.
scenery every day. We rarely sit anywhere for more than 2 or 3 days at a time. When I sit somewhere for 6 days, I'm like, why? Why am I still here? This is too
Right.
much.
Well, it sounds like again, the Venn diagram is lining up exactly, whereas, we have a retreat center.
Yes.
So we can't really go anywhere, but the adventure for me is that the people come to me. And it's
And that would
wonderful.
work.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. In
You
fact,
know, you know, we bring the yarn truck to retreats.
do you really?
We do.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh. Oh my gosh. That was a lightning bolt of an idea. I love that. We'll have to talk more about that. That's awesome. So I
Back
think
here. Bring your
I know the answer. Oh, hi, Dean.
He
Welcome.
took away the phone. He took away the internet connection.
Oh,
Don't walk away.
look, he's busy with customers, which is really exciting. So I think I
Yeah.
know the answer to my last question, but we're still going to ask
Uh-huh.
it. What brings you the most happiness?
So yarn. Yarn is what brings me the most happiness. But after Dean anyway.
Right, right. Fair enough.
So I don't know if you can tell, but my shirt says yarn is my love language because
Oh,
that is true. And
yeah.
so we speak in yarn, we speak in the community that yarn brings us. We
Hmm.
in the whole like active knitting and the bringing together of individual stitches to create a garment that really works and functions for everyone is something that I see in communities and I see in people and I see in our society. And I think that
Mhm.
yarn is really that way that we can tell each other stories, which is why
Right.
when it's really funny when like, the guy at the camp park, like he's like, I go, he's like, well, what are you doing here? And like, I'm like, well, we're gonna see yarn tomorrow. And he's like, are you telling me a yarn? And I just, things like that just really make me happy. So
I bet.
when
I bet they
people do
do.
that, so
Well, Katie, thank you so much for, being here, especially when you are, at a live event at this exact moment and Dean is on the inside selling the yarn.
I'm so sorry about
Keeping
the connection.
No, you're fine. It was great. Keeping your customers happy. I will be sure that we link in our show notes all the things that you talked about and all of the makers and creatives that you referenced. And of course, we will link you to your website and your socials so that people can find you. I'm excited to share that on my next Craftcast. I have, oh my gosh, my banner isn't showing. I'm so sorry. Well, my
That's okay.
next guest is Matthew Bordeaux. He is known in the crafting community as Max Domestic. He is a talented quilter and a creative innovator. He is based in the Pacific Northwest. You've probably seen him all over your socials. He does a lot of quilting and weaving, fabric weaving. An incredible human being, and I'm so excited to welcome him. That will be, I believe it's going to be August 28th, would be the fourth Wednesday. So we'll be back here then at noon Central, and we'll wish the best of luck to Katy and Dean, and to all of you listening. Thank you so much for joining the Happy Time Craftcast. I will definitely see you next time. Bye.
Bye.